was the shout heard round the world. And if you weren't scared before today, I'd like to know what pharmaceuticals you're using. I'm going to give you a brief summary plus an analysis of what the Republicans are trying to do to save face after Trump's huge failing today. President Zelensky of Ukraine showed up to the White House today to meet with Donald Trump to discuss a mineral rights bill. And while things started out calmly with the introductions and, boring diplomacy stuff, which we all desperately miss, things quickly escalated when our Vice President, J.D. Vance, began lecturing the president of a whole ass other country. At one point, they looked to President Zelensky and asked, "Where is your suit? Why don't you have a suit on?" To which Zelensky responded, "Well, they blew it up." JK, but what a missed opportunity, am I right? For his part, President Zelensky remained fairly composed, while our president shouted at him, at one point suggesting that Zelensky is starting World War III. While I'd suggest everybody else that was watching President Zelensky's performance felt genuinely encouraged because the man has the patience of a pre-K teacher. If it were a podcast, he would have walked off. Niche, but the girls that get it. Though ultimately, Zelensky was spotted leaving the White House sooner than he had planned, and without signing the mineral rights deal that he was there to sign in the first place. Now for me, this is one of Trump's poorest showings. He looked as weak here as I've ever seen him, which is a bold statement, I know, but I'm going to double down on this. Because real leaders don't need to shout. Real leaders can move mountains with whispers. Trump is respected by virtually no leaders in this entire world, and it shows in terms of the deference that leaders give to him. Though in fairness, Zelensky held out longer than any one of us ever could. That's another hallmark of a good leader. And I'm going to say it, the catalyst for the meltdown was J.D. Vance taking the reins of the press conference and having words with Zelensky because all eyes were on him, and the tangerine tyrant cannot handle sharing the limelight. His fragile ego just isn't up to it. So he did the only thing that he knows how to do. He yelled louder. And typically, that kind of aggression has been met with fondness by his MAGA Republican cult members. But today, it was evident from all of the press headlines and all of the talking heads that Donald Trump had gone too far and, in fact, had shown his weakness. So, what are the Republicans going to do now? First, they're going to spin it so that Zelensky was the problem. They're going to demand an apology from Zelensky because he was so disrespectful to Trump. Ma'am. He gave the High C in Chief far more leeway than any other leader on this planet would have, except for one in particular. Right, so first, it's all Zelensky's fault. It's not Trump's fault. Got it. Let's start planting the idea that, in fact, it was a very productive meeting, that Russia is terrified, and that Trump is some sort of diplomatic god. Let's do that. Next, let's lean into that emotion. Let's use that and suggest that the emotion is what's going to help accomplish things. So in essence, it's not that Donald Trump lost control. It's that he intentionally displayed big emotions so that he could get something accomplished. Let's stress that ultimately what I want here is peace, which everyone with any kind of critical reasoning skills understands is a flat out lie. But let me just keep saying it, and eventually people might believe it. We know his followers will. And again, let's put the blame back on Zelensky. Cherry on the top is announcing that you expect a ceasefire between these two countries and that you can't support Ukraine anymore if they don't agree to a ceasefire. Because if you can't lead effectively, you'll just lie about it and try to convince everyone that you are a strong leader. While people share AI-generated pictures, you're going to spin the narrative that you're a pacifist and a successful diplomat. And none of us believe you. Because we saw this with our own eyes. We have the video. Look how exasperated he looks. He's exhausted. This man has been to war for years trying to defend his homeland. He has to come here and sit down with his toddler. I know I keep saying this, but I'm right every single time. This is the most embarrassing moment for the American people. Again! So what are my predictions moving forward, aside for preparing for the fall of democracy? I think we'll either see Russia back down just for a short period of time to make it look as though Donald Trump had something to do with this. Just theater, like pretending to pull back his forces so Donald Trump can get credit for this. Or, and we've already seen murmurings of this, pushing Ukraine to themselves pull out or come to some sort of peace agreement, putting the ball in their court, even though obviously they don't have a court because Russia's invading it. But if they go that route, I think they're going to meet with a lot of resistance from people, especially moderate Republicans and moderate Democrats who don't like bullies. They don't like what Russia's doing in Ukraine. And while there may be a lot of people who want to stop funneling money that way, they don't love the idea of Russia just invading random countries. So he's not going to win a lot of fans that way. And that doesn't mean he's not going to do it because we know that there are many times where he just bulldozes through. But because I believe that he has a special in with one country in particular, because I believe that they do have a relationship, I quite wonder if we won't see some changes there, again, just temporarily, if Trump isn't just yet ready to cut off our ally, Ukraine. I think it's kind of a roll of the dice here. But you can't expect the Republicans to continue spinning this like it was some sort of godlike performance for Trump. It wasn't. We all saw it. If you have to yell and scream at other leaders to get their attention, you're not doing your job effectively. You're not a good leader. That's just the end of that story. We've seen that from hundreds and thousands of years of history. No one's going to work and yelling at their employees and then calling themselves a good boss. It's just not how it works. So they can spin their narrative however they want, but ultimately the damage was done. Everyone saw Trump and his weakness today, and even his most precious followers have some doubts now about his leadership and his capacity to be a worldwide leader and diplomat.